All right, here we go. Great to be with you finally for day 2 of the Level Up Challenge. I'm so pumped. And it's all about you and your breakthroughs, you leveling up. It's about your life in every area of your life that's important to you, whether that's in dating. And I know many of you guys found me originally through dating. So crushing that area of your life and excelling at that and achieving your goals and surpassing them. It's obviously with relationships as well, and with your career and with your fitness and health and with any other area of life that is important to you and that you want to level up in. This challenge, this whole week is all for you. Okay, so if you stick with it, if you play full out, as the guys who were on with us for day 1 discovered, you will already begin to experience transformation, especially what we're going to be doing here is our special processes that speak directly to your unconscious mind. So it's not just about lecturing and giving you intellectual concepts and giving you information, though that's helpful, but the real transformation happens at the level of your emotions and with your unconscious. We're going to really dive into that today. I'm pretty pumped for today's material. We've never covered this live, so live online. So I'm pretty excited about this. In case you don't know who I am, somehow you stumbled onto this, don't know who I am, David Tian. And I've been for over the past 14 years now, been helping hundreds of thousands of people from over 87 countries attain success, happiness, and fulfillment in their lives, and especially in their love lives. And it's my great honor and privilege to be leading you through this 5-day live challenge. I also want to just give a shout out to all those who are watching right now. Hey, Andrew, good to see you, man. And Zach says, very excited, checking in from Des Moines, Iowa. Am I pronouncing that right? Des Moines? Awesome, Zach, tuning in from Iowa. We've got more people tuning in. Let us know where you're tuning in from, what time it is for you, what are the conditions like for you. I'm actually sincerely, totally interested in that. I am currently in Taipei, Taiwan, and it is nighttime for me. We went live a little earlier, and then our Wi-Fi cut out. That rarely happens, but it happened this time. So some of you might have been on that live in the countdown, and then didn't know where to find this. So if that happens again, if for some reason our Wi-Fi cuts out, just don't panic, refresh the group page. We'll be back on. Okay, so just in case there are any other kind of technical connection difficulties, we will come back on and we'll do part B. So just keep refreshing the page. Great to see you, Neil. What's up? I saw a notification that you just went live just before this. So congrats to you. And Tang Jun Jie from Malaysia, good to see you as well. I also want to give a shout out to all those who have posted their live challenges. And my team and I have watched all of them, unless you posted within the past hour. And we have selected 2 winners from that, but I was so impressed and we were so moved by so many of your entries. I just want to give a shout out to Milos. I think you were the first poster for challenge day 1. And Angel, Anaya, lots of love, and we really appreciate your authenticity and vulnerability and sharing. And Dipto as well. I'm just going to do this quick for the interest of time. James Paul, winner from yesterday's challenge. Great to see your live entry for day 1 challenge. And Pete, great to see yours. And Nate and Debashish. And thanks, Debashish, for persisting to get your live up on the group. And Darren as well. And John Champalath, great to see yours. And Luke and Zach and Jalen and Leo Bomir. Hopefully I'm pronouncing that right. Correct me if I'm wrong, but Liubomir, good to see you and your entry. And Ratish, another winner from yesterday. So great to see all of your entries. I want to give you a big high 10 and keep it up. Keep up the progress. Hey, Jalen, good to see you. And just let everyone know where you're tuning in from and just give you a sense of the fact that we have currently watching this together, connecting over this medium, guys committed to investing in themselves and leveling up in all these different countries around the world, literally all around the world in all different time zones. So it is my great privilege and honor to be leading you through this. So this is day 2. I will be back on every day for the rest of this week at the same time, okay, barring any technical issues that we'll start a little bit later, but like today, but we will be on. Just keep refreshing that page, we'll be on. And today is all about moving from what I call phase 1 novice into the next level, up into phase 2 night level, what I call the night level, the second phase. And it's really important that you notice that there are phases in life, because a lot of people get caught up in thinking there's just 2 levels, like either you suck or you're amazing. And they don't really, I mean, that's especially true of those who haven't invested in their own growth. So the fact that you're on watching this sets you apart already from the majority of the world who were stuck in phase 1, who have bought into the lie that everything worth learning was taught in school, and that if you just follow the motions, follow your orders from school, society, your parents, that you should be happy as a result. And they're slowly finding out that that's a lie. And hopefully you found that out early on and have begun to invest in yourself, in your personal life, and in all of these areas of your emotions and your emotional intelligence and social intelligence, all these areas that school doesn't have any subjects to cover. They don't cover this in school. And this means that we have to go out of our own way to invest in our own lives, in our own happiness, in our own fulfillment and success in these ways. The fact that you're still watching this or that you are on with us is a big deal. That already means that you've set yourself apart from the majority of the world. And I want to encourage you, whether it's with me or someone else, that you continue to invest in yourself. I invest in myself in every area to a lot of money every year, but then the payoff is huge. So just thinking about it from the ROI perspective, but also I want to also encourage you, for those who did the day 1 live challenge, it's getting a little warm here, the day 1 live challenge where you shared the old narrative that was ruling your life and marking your life, and then the new narrative that you're going to be living your life from. And I think it was Tomas who said, hey, Dave, we would love to hear you give yours. And I kind of did when I explained the challenge, but it's also a good way to introduce a little bit more about myself. And I'm happy, just ask me anything you want about myself. I'm happy to reveal more. I just don't want to bore anyone with personal details too much. But I have had many times in my life where I've been forced to hit rock bottom, like that diagram I showed you yesterday of all of these challenges that a lot of people give up on that first challenge. They have a little bit of success, they hit a plateau, go into a dip, and then they give up, turn around, go back and just totally just give up and lie down and are defeated, and then just wallow in their defeat, try to look for other things to blame for their lot in life. And yesterday was all about directly attacking that notion and uprooting it and replacing it with a much better way of viewing success in life, which is the choice that you make about what the events in your life mean, the interpretation. You choose your interpretation, and that's within your control. So I'll give you one example. About 8 years ago, when I was suicidal, and I'll be telling you a more detailed version or a fuller version of this in a couple of days. But just to preview it, the old story back then, my old narrative was a loss of faith. I was a very religious man in my 20s. And for philosophical reasons, a loss of faith coupled with a deteriorated, my first marriage was deteriorated. We were separated and I didn't know what to do. And I thought at that point that there was no hope. There's nothing else. And I realized that if there is no God, then there's no objective morality. There's no objective good or evil. And I basically lost out because I was living this other lie that I was fed by my parents, the family, whatever. And it turned out probably not to be true. Then I finally realized that. And I didn't have any other moral compass as a result, because I still believe this, that putting your objective morality, grounding it in something, some authority that somebody else is like just giving to you, has very little philosophical foundation. And I was a professor of philosophy back then, and that was the focus of my life for a good, 15, 20 years. And I taught it as a professor. I taught ethics, moral philosophy. So I knew all of the arguments for this. And I realized that the old narrative back then was, if it's true that there's no objective good or evil, then I better go and get mine. So I better go and live a life of pleasure and enjoyment while I'm still existing on this planet. Why am I holding myself back from, for example, sexual pleasure, or even just drinking? In the Christian tradition I was in back then frowned even on alcohol and just having fun in general. So I'm gonna have some fucking fun. That was my old story. And I was finding the meaning of my life back then in hedonism. And of course, as long as I didn't harm anyone, or harm was the main thing that I was just trying to avoid, not making anybody worse off and not lying or cheating just because of harm. As long as I didn't harm anyone, my old narrative was about getting the maximum pleasure. And then my new narrative that I had to arrive at, because I finally, over the years of just having all this hedonistic pleasure, realized how empty and meaningless it was. And then was confronted by the fact that I had become quite narcissistic. And in order to excel in getting more and more pleasure, I had to adopt narcissistic behavior patterns, because that actually does help in getting material pleasure. And it was all empty and meaningless, and there was no fulfillment or deeper meaning in my life. So I hit rock bottom. I was then forced to, over the course of 6-7 months, soul searching, and found a new narrative. And it was sort of given to me, and there was a choice that I made to lean into it, which was a story of love, and the meaning of life being connection and love, and especially giving love. I'm going to get into this in more detail in a couple of days when we look at the purpose of your life and how you can discover that for yourself. But that's one example of how I went from an old narrative that didn't serve me anymore into a new narrative of in the 3 emotions that I would choose to match that new narrative and that would dominate that life would be love, gratitude, and I guess I'm cheating here, Matt, appreciation. So let's stop there. Love, gratitude, appreciation, being present, so many other great emotions that would mark that life. So that was one of my earlier shifts in a choice from switching from one narrative to another, and a narrative that is much more empowering, meaningful, and is also evolving with me into the next phase. And we have had the pleasure again of reading and watching so many of your live entries. So I want to reward you all for that and encourage you to keep going. Okay, great. So say hi if you're tuning in here. Just want to know where you're tuning in from, who is there. I can't really see anyone else unless you go and comment. So any kind of comments, even an angry face engagement will help the algorithm. I post a lot for, just like putting out quotes and things like that. So sometimes Facebook thinks I'm spamming. So they throttle my organic reach. So any kind of engagement you can give me will be very appreciated. But I'm going from API from Zoom here. So that's part of why I'm using this particular profile. So this level up challenge is all about you leveling up to the next level, finding deeper meaning and purpose in your life. And yesterday, I couldn't get the slides to work properly. And today I think I have. So I will attempt to do this and I will show you. Okay, so here we have, hopefully this is working. Hey, Andrew, thanks for the thumbs up. Okay, so here's the skill achievement graph that I was trying to show you yesterday. And you'll notice that, can you see my cursor? Oh, that functionality is not available. Okay, so you can't see my cursor. All right, so you see these 3 different arrows pointing at what you're gonna see is the plateau is not very well depicted in this graph, but you have some degree of improvement or success or progress. And then normally there would be a plateau where you just sort of level off and then you go into this dip. And a lot of people think that that's the only challenge they'll have. And they don't realize that there are many other phases after this, but they think that's it. And that's the big challenge of their lives. And they give up and they go back and they just lie down. Now, if you actually break through to the next level, it is going to be amazing for a while. For a while, you will be incredibly fulfilled and you'll be full of energy like I was when I finally broke into the next level for me back then that I just told you about, into the old narrative, what I called the old narrative for that example, which is pursuing a life of pleasure, of maximizing enjoyment and fun and dating opportunities, right? Like hooking up and all that good stuff, and just living the player lifestyle without harming anyone. And I thought that's it. That would be it, until I realized how meaningless that was. And then I didn't see a way out, and actually became quite bitter for a good 3 to 4 months. And that's when I actually entered some of these subcultures like Red Pill. I don't think MGTOW was even around back then. It was like 8 years ago, but definitely Red Pill. And I researched it, and I still think there are a couple interesting things that might help guys there. And so I've actually incorporated that in some of my podcasts. But a lot of it is very toxic. And I didn't know where else to go until I was able to find my way through to the next big breakthrough. And it's really important to realize that if you get the wrong advice or guidance for you at the wrong phase in life you're at, it's not going to stick. And in fact, it might actually cause a negative anchor. So somebody at a phase 3 giving advice to somebody who's still in phase 1, that phase 1 person might just think, oh, this advice, it's all airy-fairy, it's not wishy-washy, it's not whatever, I don't understand it even. So I'm just going to disregard it. And that's bad, because that advice will come in handy later, but they're not at the right phase yet. So it's really important that you get the right guidance for the phase that you are in. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to get your way out. Now, also as a reminder, the emotion equals phenomenology plus interpretation equation, that emotions are composed of 2 components. The first is the feltness of it, the physical sensations of it, plus the interpretation, which is within your control. Okay, so that was yesterday's material. So this is review. And again, by way of review, most people think of life and progress and success being like the top thing there, your plan. So it should be smooth sailing and a pretty even pace upwards. And it's the great lie of society and school, because as long as you pass grade 2, you'll just get pushed up to grade 3. Right? So for a long period of our lives, your grades didn't really matter, despite and I've worked with a lot of guys whose parents made them feel like, gave them fear that if they didn't get A's in school, then they won't be able to get a good job and all that. These are legacy burdens, so to speak. These are burdens passed down from the parents to the kids, that grades really matter. But your grades don't fucking matter in grade 4. You pass, they put you in grade 5, even if you got a C all the way through, right? And you just think, oh, okay, this is life. You don't have to excel, you just got to pass. And if you pass, they'll just send you to the next level. And it's not true for A lot of Asian societies, though, once they start doing those countrywide tests, bubble tests at like 10 years old or whatever. But for a Western education system, it's largely like that. And you just like follow the motions. You just, and the path to excellence in that area is well defined. Just get an A then, if it matters, right? So it's pretty straightforward. It's supposedly transparent. If you just work hard, you'll get there. And it's a big lie, right? That's not how the world actually works. Instead, the world actually works like the bottom diagram there, reality, right? So I noticed that at each stage, the challenge and what happens in that dip requires a new set of resources. All right, so you get from, in this example, this cartoon example, you have, it looks like the first one's like rocks or mud, I don't know. And then you get into a forest, but the way to get out to the next stage is a cable car. And then you end up with a body of water at your next phase. So you can't use the cable car solution anymore, and so on, right? So at each stage, they're in different challenges, and they're going to be different resources that are required, new strategies, techniques, tools to make it to the next level. And what I want to point out is, these are psychological and emotional challenges that we're talking about specifically here. So again, this is just an analogy. The reality, your plan, that's just an analogy. You're not actually, just for those who are more literal minded. And I know I work with some people who are like that. I'm not talking about actual physical trekking here. It's an emotional and psychological challenge. And that means that the new tools, the new resources, the new strategies are actually perspectives, new interpretations, new ways of looking at things. And yesterday I'm just going to pop out here, stop share. Yesterday I gave the example of the difference between living in one dimension, which is just a dot, and hearing about what two dimensions is like. It's hard to imagine two dimensions when you've only lived in one dimension. And then you somehow make it up to the second dimension. Now you're living life in two dimensions, and you hear somebody tell you about three dimensions. You're like, well, how? That's not even possible. I can't even conceive of it. And then somehow you make it up to the third dimension, and now they're telling you about more dimensions. And at each dimension, if you don't have the dimension they're talking about, if you don't have access to that, you can't even conceive of it. And that's how dangerous it is when you don't realize that there's stuff that you don't know. There's very important stuff, wisdom, insights, perspectives that you're unable currently to fully grasp, but that are required for you to make it to the next level. And if you stay at the same level that you're at, eventually over time, you will stagnate. Okay? There's a way out of this, and it's a perpetual cycle of fulfillment and joy, and it just gets more and more. I'll tell you about that towards the end of the challenge. Okay, so a lot of that was by way of review. And yesterday I showed you a video featuring a man named Nick. I'm blanking out his last name now. It's a Greek name that's long. But for those of you who watched yesterday's, you saw that really inspiring video of a man who had no legs and only half or a quarter of an arm. And yet he was so fired up, powerful, confident, charming, and he had accomplished so much and just loves life so much. How is that possible without taking a new perspective on life, right? So I've shown that video before last year, a couple times last year. And I started to notice this response that I didn't expect, but that I learned was more and more common as I got guys to open up about that. So I showed them the video. It's supposed to inspire you. It inspired almost all of you yesterday. But I think maybe some of you might have had this other reaction, which was that, well, that's good for him. I mean, I can't hate on that guy. I'm happy for him, but that doesn't make me feel any better. My challenges are still my challenges. And now we're comparing like how fucked up, or worse off we are. So yeah, he's more worse off than me, yet he did so awesome. And I don't have it anywhere near as bad as him, yet I still suck in all of these areas. So actually that video ended up making some guys feel even worse about themselves, because this was a new thing for me when it happened. I think that's been there all along, but I didn't realize it until I showed the video. Like, how could you not draw inspiration from that? Oh, okay. If that's your line of reasoning, if that's your interpretation of that man's life, which is to make yourself feel worse because you have these inner critics that just use that as more fuel to pile on. As a result of that, and I actually showed, the first time I showed this video to a group like this one, it was about half a year ago when we did another challenge. And I discovered that. So I prepared a meditation meditative exercise. It's very gentle. That speaks directly to you if you're still in phase one. So a phase one person would have a reaction like that. So even within a phase, so we're looking today at phase one and phase two. Within the phase itself, there is also a growth trajectory. So there are people who just enter that phase, and when they've entered a new phase, like when you first enter phase two, I'll give like part of phase two for me was figuring out dating, and I call that my old narrative. But for to have complete mastery in the skill set to be able to walk up to a woman, start a conversation, flirt with her, and make something happen, right? And at least make a connection. And this is a skill that you can learn. It's actually a pretty straightforward skill, and you can learn it pretty easily once you've gotten rid of your therapeutic issues that are blocking that from happening, your anxiety. So if you have, here's a way to determine very quickly whether you need to go through the therapeutic approach or whether you can do the more straightforward approach, like fixing your refrigerator and just get the manual and just follow the troubleshooting from the manual. And there's plenty of dating troubleshooting videos that would just walk you 1, 2, 3, do this, do that, say this, say that, copy and paste this text to your Tinder, whatever, and do your profile this way. There's tons of those. There are actually every day, it seems like there's more and more of those on YouTube or wherever. And many of them are free. It's not that you lack information or know-how or advice. You know, if you have access to Google and a brain, you can figure it out. The problem is implementing it, executing it, applying it, actually doing it. And if you'll notice that when you go and try to do it, many guys, the majority of guys, have crippling anxiety, or they have these voices in their heads that are just reinforcing their insecurities, whatever that might be. You're not good enough. She doesn't like you enough, or whatever, you know, like those things about you. You should just shut up because you got nothing else to say, things like that. Then if you have that anxiety come up, when you go and try to implement these conversational skills, you need therapy, or you need the therapeutic process. That's why the thrust of my work is the therapeutic process. Even in my most explicitly, the course that's most explicitly about dating and dating skills, which is Invincible, I sneak in there. I don't really sneak it in, but it's every other module I put in there the therapeutic process, right? So because that's the best way to do it. We're doing that here today, but I know that many of you are really focused on your dating lives. And if that's you in phase one, where you're just crippled by your anxiety and your insecurities, and instead of addressing those directly, you've been going to, I don't know, some YouTube videos or whatever, and it hasn't been working out too well. Maybe you can't apply it very well. And then you see some inspirational video, and instead of drawing inspiration from it, you just beat yourself up further. Then that's a sign that you're solidly in phase one. You're like in the center of phase one. You're not towards the end yet. And this meditative exercise is going to help you go further towards coming out of that phase. So it's sort of like you're at, that example of going up to the plateau, dip, and then the next level, I'm going off camera here, next level, you're stuck down to that dip there. And this meditation and what I've been coaching you on the past day and yesterday and today is going to help you move up, climb up out of that pit of despair. So without further ado, I'm going to share this meditative exercise and see how it goes. And I'd love to hear your reactions, your responses and reactions to it. I did appreciate that those who messaged me privately about their reaction to that inspiring video by Nick Santonas Stasso. So because of that feedback, I'm actually doing a whole new few days here where I have changed the content. So I do appreciate any feedback, and I want to know your honest reaction. Now, again, with any of our meditative exercises, you want to pull over if you're operating any heavy machinery. If you have any notes or anything like that, no devices, you want to put those aside. And so that you can close your eyes and focus on the words. Don't get distracted by your visual field. Close off the visual field. It's pretty simple to do that. Find a quiet place, put in the headphones, and just relax. And this is a really simple one. It's not going to require you to shout or move around or anything. Just really gentle. Okay, so wish me luck on the tech here. Okay. So our team has provided a cool background video if for whatever reasons you open your eyes. So here we go. A part of me wants to keep my eyes closed and pull the covers over my head, block out the light trying to be turned on in my room. A part of me wants to stay right where I am and wants not anyone or anything to jostle me, ask me questions, push me forward. A part of me wants to hide in anger and fear, in my stale beliefs, with my pointing fingers, my victimhood, my self-righteousness, and wants to defend why life is not easy. A part of me wants to tell the world I have been hurt too many times to move ahead. A part of me wants to justify how my pain has left me frozen, desiccated, and unable to let go. A part of me is so afraid to look at what is hurting that it would rather escape than face it. A part of me is so afraid to open my eyes because the very nature of waking up is to be aware, to be accountable, to be responsible for the healing of my life, and knows I will need to take on the task of loving myself until full. A part of me is so afraid to look and to see because it knows the fingers I have been pointing will be pointing back at me. The angry eyes I have been looking out at the world with are my eyes, my responsibility. A part of me knows that when caught in anger and pain, I will have to ask myself, is this really worth my misery? Is the price I am paying worth my one precious life? A part of me is afraid to see because it knows that in seeing, I will be asked to let go, and that in letting go, I will be asked to be reborn, and that in being reborn, I will have to uncover who I truly am. A part of me knows that once I begin to see, I will never be able to unsee again. That in waking, I will begin the sometimes scary process of perpetually moving forward. The process of stretching and growing, and then stretching and growing again. But something in me knows, in every ounce and inch of its being, that I am serving no one, not one single life, by staying asleep. Something in me is beckoning me to move up and out from all of the places of stagnation, the dark rooms of stale air. Something in me is being propelled up and out of this great wilderness and asking to discover the power hidden in the creases of my skin, resting on the tips of my eyelashes, traveling in the veins that surge through me. Something in me is not afraid to look, who longs to see, who longs to live in my freedom, who is calling me into the wide expanse of my being. Something in me knows of my source, knows of my magnificence, knows of my call to stop choosing to stay asleep, to follow my pain until I realize that there is nothing more for me to do with it but lay it down. Something in me knows this and calls to me in all of my discontent and gently shows me signs of life on the other side. Shows me the gift of rising up and out from the bed I have made on the ground. Keeping your eyes closed, arrive in your body. Notice your hands, your arms, your feet, your ankles, your legs. Breathe deeply and feel it between your shoulder blades. Arrive here with yourself. Can you hear the small voice inside of you that has been telling you there's more to this life than what you have been choosing? Can you hear the small voice inside of you that has been gently guiding you to your heart all along? Can you hear the small voice inside that is telling you when you are ready, you are welcome to join me in the truth of your great power? It is here, if you listen closely, behind the dense hurt and bondage lives your higher self, standing tall, feet firmly planted in the earth, palms turned to face the sky, earth rejoicing around its feet, heart loud, clear, resolute, eyes wide open. There inside of you, your wondrous self is calling you to step into the land of your great, boundless potential, freedom, and abundance. Any change or forgiveness you have experienced in your life was not because someone else made you let go. It was because you chose to. The power is yours. The choice is yours. Do not worry yourself too much with how to live from this self. Do not worry yourself too much with how to release your pain. Do not worry yourself too much with the practical side of this. For there is a wisdom living within you that has guided you to this very moment, hearing these very words. It is helping us open our eyes and is guiding us here always to this heart, to our wholeness, guidance comes in many forms and faces. So do not worry yourself with how you will ultimately arrive at your freedom, for it is the work of what seem like magic and miracle. All you must worry yourself with is listening intently for that higher self in you that is not interested in staying with suffering any longer. All you must worry yourself with, dear friend, is listening intently for the higher self in you that already knows what you must do to arrive at the door of your awakening. You are longing to be more alive. You are longing to be more fully present to your one precious life. You are not afraid. You are ready, dear friend, to be accountable, to be wholly responsible for your life. Life itself is pure of being, empty of suffering. Life itself is free from anger and fear. Life can be here for us to live in wonder of and to open our eyes to our ability to let go of all suffering in order to find our freedom. To drop the notion that we are owed anything from this life and realize that instead we owe it to ourselves. Something in you knows this as truth. Something inside you can hear a deep and resounding yes to the pulling of the covers off from over your head, because it knows your life, your one precious life, is so worth it. Now, taking a deep breath in through your nose and out through your mouth. Gently coming back into the room you are sitting in and slowly opening your eyes. Okay. Wonderful. How was that for you? Just type that into the comments. Let us know your thoughts, reflections, your responses. What occurred to you? How was that for you? I'm going to put on just some gentle background music here. And setting it up now. Okay. So I'd love to hear from you how that was. You can just put that in the comments. Remind myself there's a 10 to 15 second lag because of the Zoom API thingy. So I'll wait for that. By the way, this meditation was a remix of a Sarah Blondin original meditation, as was the very first one I did yesterday. So big fan of Sarah Blondin, highly recommend her work. And I just remixed it and covered it. Let us know how that was for you. In the slides, I just recalled that I had a slide to introduce this. And well, anyway, it's about pulling the covers off. Let us know how it was for you. Did it resonate with you? Pulling the covers off and realizing that your one precious life is worth getting up again and giving it another shot and being patient and enduring and staying in that wilderness of discomfort until the way out to the next phase makes itself known. So let us know. Well, while I wait, actually, I'll just wait till this Gentle song ends. Let us know how that was for you. How did you find that? Did it speak to you? Did you fall asleep, perhaps? How is that for you? I also want to remind everyone of phase one, the novice phase, of the characteristics and the downsides of it as we lead into, we're going to be examining phase two night today together. Oh, Milos wrote, it allowed me to see and feel the bigger picture of life. Wonderful. Thank you for sharing, Milos. And Zach wrote, amazing, very eye-opening. Thank you, Zach Johnson. All right. I appreciate the energy and your input there. And as you can continue to type into the comments for anyone else who wants to share, I'm very interested in knowing your reaction and response, what you got from that. And just want to review also phase one novice. So this was a meditation that's really great, especially for those who, like I say at the beginning, would rather just pull the cover over your eyes and not meet the day and not go out and, or even formulate goals, let alone crush them. The novice is very much in that energy. The novice has bought into the sort of follower mentality of just following the orders that are given to him. He thinks everything that's worth learning was taught in school and merely follows the steps society and schools laid out for him. Therefore, he lacks purpose and he lacks intrinsic drive. There's no inner motivation that just effortlessly propels him forward. Over time, he ends up developing kind of bitterness and resentment because he's not getting the happiness that was implicitly promised to him if he just followed the steps laid out for him. And he doesn't know that you can actually learn, improve, and master in these other areas of life, like psychology, like emotional intelligence, like just you're getting a mastery over your own emotions and understanding your own inner world and choosing a new interpretation, choosing a new narrative of your life, and that the empowerment from that. He doesn't know that you can do that. Maybe he doesn't even think you can. So that's the novice. And once he is able to let go of all of those points, able to let go of the bitterness and resentment, able to let go of those false myths about the fact that you can't learn how to become better in psychology or with your emotions or with your unconscious, and that there is a way to find purpose in life, that he can have purpose in life and a drive that will drive him forward effortlessly because it will pull him forward because he's driven by a deeper meaning. When he's able to adopt that, then he's moving into the next phase, which I call the night phase. Tang Chun, okay, great. So I see some comments here. Tang Chun Xue said, been starting a journey of self-improvement over the past year, but it's not always a linear progression. And sometimes when hitting a plateau, an affirmation like this helps a lot. Awesome. Yes, it's rarely, if ever, a linear progression. In fact, even that diagram I showed you of reality isn't quite accurate because it's overall still always going up. There are definitely going to be times when it seems like you're going even lower than you were when you started, but that's just part of the journey. That's part of the way out. Maybe you just don't have the right perspective. And this is why we covered in yesterday's meditation about the choices. You have a choice of trusting that it will work out versus just giving up. So that's an important thing to realize. Oh, I better mute my notifications. It's my sister here. Okay. And Jalen wrote, it felt good. My brain was a bit distracted today, so it drifted away a few times. Totally normal, and it's totally okay for your brain to drift. That means that you have a lot that you haven't processed. So it's all percolating in your unconscious mind. Okay. Let me see if I can turn these off. I can't find a way to do that. Okay, so I'll just try to ignore it. Darren wrote, I like the part. Some part of you wants to get out of being stagnated. Okay, awesome, exactly. Some part of you totally wants to get out of being stagnant. That's why you're on here, right? That's what drove you to actually to show up and to play full out and to do the meditation and to still be on live. I want to applaud that, recognize that, and encourage that part in you, Darren. So that's totally awesome. So this is a moving from phase one to phase two. What's phase two? Let me tell you about phase two, what the phase two night is, and the benefits or the pros of the phase two night. Then I'll get into the cons a little later. So the upside of the phase two night is that when you enter phase two, it's all about you can crush your goals. He sets goals that are meaningful to him and he crushes them. And it comes from within. He doesn't need somebody to dangle a carrot in front of him. He just goes and does it because this is something that he is already motivated to do. He has his intrinsic drive. He also has confidence based on competence. So he's gotten really good at something because he's practiced it a lot. He's trained at it. And because of that, he's derived confidence from just the fact that he's got this experience and he's got these skills and he knows what he's doing. When it, like women, getting better with women, a lot of guys don't know what they're doing. They don't know what to say. They don't know how to inject humor. They don't know what to do. So of course they're not confident. You can't just create confidence out of nothing if you don't know what you're doing. It's sort of like standing in front of your garden and saying there are no weeds, there are no weeds, there are no weeds, when there are weeds everywhere. And you don't know, like let's say how to do surgery, and someone just hands you the surgical tools and says, hey, be confident, just get in there and do it. You're like, I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. I shouldn't be confident. That would be really bad. So the knight has earned his confidence. He's gone about it through attaining competence. Now, in the later phases, you'll realize that just because somebody's competent doesn't automatically make him confident. There are plenty of people who are plenty competent, or they have a lot of already intrinsic value in them, but they don't appreciate it. So the knight here has earned his confidence over practice and training and so on. The knight is driven by a greater purpose and mission, unlike the novice, and he's got that go out and crush it type of energy. So that's the knight. I'll give you an example of a client that I worked with who we were able to help him unlock that phase 2 knight energy for himself. So he grew up in a household that was dominated by women. He was raised by his mother, and then he had all sisters. I think it was like 4 sisters, and then his aunts were coming over, his aunts were coming over a lot and helping out. So it was just all women in his house, and he was the only man, and the only male. And growing up, he realized later that he was quite shamed just by being male. The kind of things they would say about men being useless, men being this and that, complaining all the time, looking down on men, and kind of taking out their own frustrations and bitterness and resentment on poor Derek. And growing up into that environment, he lacked confidence, he lacked drive. He also was apologizing a lot just for his very presence. He had taken on a lot of feminine energy that didn't serve him because his core energy, in essence, was actually masculine. But it was shamed in his household and in his context and his social circle growing up. And when he discovered our work, we were able to help him unlock that masculine drive. And we were able to help him free up these parts of him that were repressed for so long. And as a result, he actually ended up quitting his so-so job. It was a job that was just comfortable. He didn't really care too much for it, but it was safe and secure. He ended up quitting that job. And this is before COVID. We had worked for a few months together before COVID. And then he had his dream back then was to actually travel. And he wanted to travel the world. He had a list of all these places that he wanted to visit that were his dream back then when he was sitting in the cubicle doing his so-so job. And he just daydreamed about traveling. And he decided he was going to go and do it. And he made it happen. He quit his job and managed to figure things out. We helped him through this lifestyle design. And he was able to travel the world. And that's actually where we worked together online first, and then actually met up in person on one of his round the world trips on the other side of the planet. So he was moving from America and then just backpacking around. Well, actually he wasn't backpacking, he was staying in some nice hotels. And we met up in Australia. That was the first time we met, and we met again. And there he had completely transformed. He had tapped in to that phase 2 knight energy. He had moved up into phase 2 by integrating the masculine parts of him that were these powerful parts that were shamed when he was a child and repressed. And as a result, his life was just so much fuller, enjoyment, fun, but also deeper meaning because he was able to pursue things that really meant something deeper to him. And he was able to finally get to know himself. And one of the other things that he discovered being raised in that household, repressing his masculine parts, was that he ended up in relationships or in his dating situations in the codependent role a lot, in the sort of nice guy, what I call the white knight. So he had a white knight syndrome that was pretty strong and had infected a lot of his psychology because it was so ingrained in him to take on that role of trying to cater to her needs completely and overlooking his own, and trying to rescue her from whatever problems she presents. And instead of having healthy boundaries and taking responsibility for his own emotions and behaviors and thoughts, and not taking responsibility for her shit. And that was a huge turning point for him to actually then access and beginning to grow through his masculine energies. And now, years later, he's just rocking it, even though he's contained in America now. And it's just such a great story, seeing him then grow into phase 3, which I'll get to tomorrow. But it's one of those amazing things where when you are able to tap into those parts of you that are like the night energy, that are comfortable, that naturally have this phase 2 night energy, that your life completely changes for the better, completely transforms. So one of the things that we're going to do here together to access, to unlock and unleash this phase 2 night energy in you is to discover some of these parts that already have access to that energy, but that are being repressed or that maybe you've not even discovered yet. Okay, so I'm going to move into the next set of slides here, and let's hope the tech works. All right. Okay, so you see your plan reality. And what you need is takeoff velocity. So notice that once you get momentum and you get past that initial hump, which is really difficult, which especially when you're going from one phase to the next, it's going to seem like impossible. It's this huge paradigm shift. You can't even barely conceive of this possible life where you're just rocking it, crushing it, and it's almost effortless, right? That's the description of phase 2. How is that possible when you're still in that phase 1 where you just wish you could pull the covers over your head and not come out at all for the whole day? How do you get from there to the next level, the phase 2 night? Well, it is a lot like takeoff velocity. So here's an example of an airplane. So you notice there are 2 planes here. It's just a pretty picture I picked. So it's to illustrate the fact that these gigantic things, I don't know how heavy is an actual airplane. I didn't Google that, but these gigantic things weighing tons and tons, they go high, they go 30,000, 40,000 feet up in the air. How is that possible? Well, part of what's required is a runway long enough to allow them to establish takeoff velocity. So they need to get to that point where, now notice, if this airplane, let's kind of humanize it, anthropologize it a bit. If this airplane had a brain, had a mind, it'd look at like the sky and think, there's no way I could get off this ground. I could fly. You know how heavy I am? There's just no possible way. And every time it tries, because it's seeing other planes do it, and its airplane coach says, just go as fast as you can and have your wings look good, everything's ready to go, just go. And then this thing goes trudging down this runway, but then it's still stuck on the ground. It's like, I'm not getting up, and then it just quits. Right? So that's the analogy to the guy who hits that plateau into the dip and then just gives up. Because psychologically, it's a dip. Like, I'm just spending so much energy. I'm expending so much energy and not going anywhere here. I'm just trudging along. Now, what he didn't realize, this poor little baby plane, didn't realize, well, in this picture, this looks like a pretty big plane, that it didn't realize that it needs to achieve that velocity. Until it achieves that velocity, it's not going to get up off the ground. But if it stops every time it hits, before it hits that velocity, it'll just keep thinking, I will never be able to do it. Now, if you were this airplane and you kept going and stopping short of achieving that velocity, and then you did it again over and over, I don't know, whatever it would take, 20 times. How many times have you tried to lose weight or gain muscle or whatever it is, the simple, New Year's resolution type of goal, and you went along for a while, you trudged along the runway, but you never took off, and you just end up giving up. And that could be this airplane. Another example we give that in our team is a baby or child, I guess a toddler, who is learning how to walk. And every time it tries to walk, it falls. Tries to walk, it falls. And maybe it can't even stand up at first. And it's just like, imagine a baby who's just like, fuck it. And imagine the parents are like, fuck it. You can't walk. You're just going to have to crawl for the rest of your life. Just deal with it. I'm giving up on you. Right? We don't give up on that. Right? Well, most of us don't give up on trying to walk. Yet we give up on so many other things in our lives because it's too hard, or we haven't figured out, or we haven't persisted, or we don't realize that there's an actual point at which we will take off, like this airplane. So you look at that one in the horizon there, and it's up off the ground because it's reached takeoff velocity. Now, once you hit cruising altitude, the amount of energy that you need to keep going is very little compared to the amount of energy that you need to start. That starting energy is always going to be the most right? That's always going to be the greatest expenditure. It's just like your car, right? The biggest expenditure is starting the thing. It's the same if you think about planetary, planets, planetary objects. When the greatest energy is expended in leaving the Earth's atmosphere. Once you're out in space, it takes no energy. You just like pop, and the thing just goes on forever, right? And it's like that in a lot of our areas of our lives. When we get into that, it's that initial takeoff velocity. When we get into cruising altitude of those areas in our lives, it becomes effortless and natural, and it becomes intrinsically rewarding. But at first, you're going to have to go through this period of pushing through the resistance. Okay, so especially true. This is especially true for phase 2 night. In later phases, that initial takeoff velocity momentum that's required shortens. And I'll get to that later on in this week. But today for phase 2 night, it is going from phase 1 novice to phase 2 night is going to feel really hard. Okay, so because it's like getting the plane to take off. It's not going to be unpleasant still, but you might interpret this as unpleasant. Just like somebody who's starting to work out doesn't like the feeling of the movement. And until he gets to either ideally enjoy the movement, because it's going to be a signal or an anchor to growth, until he can get onto the other side of that and anchor positive interpretations to it, he's not going to get off the ground. Right? So it's a great analogy for how to move from phase 1 to 2, getting that momentum. And it almost always requires some kind of burning of the bridges, of going past the point of no return. Because when you've gone past the point of no return, you just go all in. And it's almost always going to require you going all in. There's some fear around it, but you got to just take that leap. And when you're going from 1 to 2, it feels like that. Going from 2 to 3 feels totally different. It's a completely different approach. But going from phase 1 to 2, from novice to night, is a lot like a gigantic airplane trying to take off and fly in the sky like a bird. Okay, so just wanted to give that analogy. And this, I should have had this slide first. So this is the slide I was going to use to introduce the meditation we just did, but we don't need the slide anymore. Okay, so I'm going to be getting into now the secret to making that transition from phase 1 novice to phase 2 night as easy as possible, smooth and natural as possible. Now you could do the brute force method. So a lot of, I don't know, we call them self-development, personal development, life coaching, a lot of that, especially men who teach this, do the brute force method. So this is the just do it, right? Just, that was referencing a joke, but it's just like, go and do it. Like, and it's just very simplistic, just like man up, get up off your couch and make something of yourself. It's just like screaming at you. Actually, for early phase 2 nights, they really enjoy that. I remember a phase of my life when I really enjoyed those pump up motivational videos. And there's a part of me that still really enjoys those. Those are fun to watch once in a while, but they're not sustainable. And you notice anybody who relies on that kind of YouTube inspirational video type of motivation to get him to go to the gym or whatever, he'll need more and more of that over time because our brains adjust and adapt to it like a drug. So it's not sustainable because it's not actually getting to the problems in the unconscious or the obstacles in the unconscious. So a much more natural and easier way to do it, a much more direct way, is to discover and unleash and unlock and give power to those parts of us that are already in us that enjoy doing that type of thing, enjoy that type of energy, of the night energy. So I'm going to be introducing here 4 parts. But first, I just want to point out for those who are like me and like to discuss or like to have the intellectual covered first and need to have intellectual parts that need to give assent in order to go all in on an experience. There's a lot, what I'm presenting here of psychological parts, there's a lot of support for this in science, particularly in neuroscience and neuropsychology. So the current model of the brain that's the most popular dominant model is the modularity version of the brain. So we see the brain as composed of different modules that are suited for different purposes. And it's almost like they have their own personalities when you access them, even when it comes to certain languages. So if you are fluent in 2 or more languages, you'll notice that when you start to speak in that other language, the tone of your voice might change, the range of your voice might change, the way that you think about abstract concepts might change. The way that you split up even physical objects in the world in your mind might change. You might even move differently. You have a different sense of humor. You might be that way with music. Music's an example where very different types of music, genres of music, might access different parts of our brains. And when you're into that type of music, it's like you're in a new personality. This is one of the reasons why we use music so much in our work here. I keep saying our, like it's our team, my work here. And you'll notice how important that music is to access the parts that we want to help you access, or those emotions. Right? And what happens in the brain when you're accessing a different module is there's a different set of neural pathways that are activated. So you can Google this and actually spend your entire career studying this if you want. So I was going to do some diagrams, but I thought they're way too complex. So I want to keep this as simple as possible. So I'm going to explain it like this: sets of patterns of neural pathways. So if your brain has all these neural pathways, which it does, imagine that there's a set of neural pathways, a pattern, that when this pattern is activated, you're in a certain personality, right? And that's a part. That's what we identify as a part. And then when something else gets triggered, another part of you, it's a different set of patterns of neural pathways. Okay. The more that this is very basic neuroscience, the more that you think something, the more that the neural pathway is traveled, the more that the myelin sheath around the neural pathway thickens, so that it becomes like, the analogy that's often given is the difference between driving down a local road with lots of traffic lights. That's when you're just learning something and you're kind of stumbling through it because you're just learning it. You're just starting to learn it. Versus when you've traveled down that road in your brain a lot and it's become automatic and it's like a super highway now. You just go down it. And that's because it's been myelinized. There's this myelin sheath that goes around that set of neural pathways. And as soon as that gets triggered, boom, you're in it. Right? And language is that way for many of us who are native speakers of a language. And if you're a native speaker of 2 or more languages, or if you're native fluency in 2 or more languages, you'll notice that this set of neural pathways is quite different. Okay, so from one to the other. And from a psychotherapeutic perspective, these sets of neural pathways are like parts in you. Okay, so this is really important. This is also why this is so important that there's an implication to this, a fallout of this that most people don't realize. When you do a personality test, and there's the one that has the most evidence, empirical evidence for it, is the Big Five. Jordan Peterson has the best Big Five assessment that's available to the public that I've seen. So that's a good one. The thing is, when you do a personality assessment, it'll spit out for you a set of results. That set of results applies to the personality that was answering, the part of you that was doing the assessment. And normally it's just whatever parts are dominant in you while you're doing the assessment. So if it's accessing a very intellectual part of you while you're doing it, you're going to end up answering in a way that's consistent with, it's the intellectual part answering the questions, answering the survey questions. And it's going to pop out as a result, the personality type of that part that was doing the actual survey. Notice though, that there's a part of you that's incredibly seductive. You just may not have access to it. There's a part of you that is already loving life and is passionate and fun and adventurous and easygoing and laid back. And maybe you just haven't accessed that part. And there's a part of you that's charming and comfortable with sexuality and revels in it. And maybe you just don't have access to that yet. But when you do finally access that part, and it were to sit down while you're still in that part, that in other words, that set of neural pathways is triggers, like lit up in your brain. When you sit down to do that personality assessment, it will produce the personality assessment of that part. Now that's how important this parts analysis really is. So these are different personalities. Now, you have an executive function, right? Whichever part is sort of in charge of organizing, or is dominant, we call that, whatever part is dominant. In people who have multiple personality disorder, now called dissociative identity disorder, that executive function is absent or very weak, so that these different parts are sort of at war trying to get the seat of consciousness. However, we all have these parts. It's just that most people have an executive part that is good at shoving down or repressing or suppressing certain parts. So the example of Derek there, as a child, being forced to adapt to his household situation, his home situation, and forcing down his masculine parts. And there's that executive, those parts that were sort of in charge, I've been using the word executive function, but whichever parts are in charge, and they've been pushing that down, right? So now we're going to learn how to unlock. We're going to begin to, and I have a whole series of courses that will guide you through the process over multiple weeks. But today we get today, so I'm going to take you as far as we can in one day, right? Or actually in like an hour and a half. Okay. Now we're going to be addressing not just parts, but a special category of parts, what I call archetypes. The reason I can do that over this medium is because I know, or there's very high likelihood, if you're a human being, that you have these archetypal parts in you. We're going to be activating 4 archetypal parts. There are more than 4 archetypal parts. And there are, you definitely have more than those 4 parts. But I do know that you very likely have these 4 parts. So this meditative exercise will work. And these 4 parts are archetypes. So this is a term especially developed by Carl Jung. And he looked at it in terms of the collective unconscious, which, in my opinion, the best interpretation of that idea, or the concept of collective unconscious, is that we collectively inherit in our unconscious these archetypes because they were evolutionarily adaptive. So that's the first characteristic. Archetypes are evolutionarily adaptive parts. These are parts that are beneficial to us in survival and replication and just making our way in human society. Right. Okay. So they're evolutionary adaptive. That's part of why we have, and the second characteristic there is we have inherited it, and it's been passed down over the thousands of years. And it is also universal, or the assumption is that it's universal. That's why I say it's very, very, very likely that you have these parts, and that these parts are unburdened. That's going to make a lot more sense to those who have a background in parts work. What that means is these parts don't need to do the unburdening work on themselves. So they are already powerful, and we just need to access them and allow them to flourish. It doesn't mean that they're perfect or that there aren't extremes in these parts, but it does mean that they don't need to undergo any kind of unburdening because they're archetypal. They're in us from the beginning, and they're already there formed to do a particular type of function. Okay, so this might be quite abstract, so let me make it clearer for you through an illustration. I'm going to be looking at these 4 parts of the warrior, magician, lover, and king. And for those who've done rock solid relationships and masculine mastery with me, you'll be well acquainted with these, as well as those who've done our mini course core. Okay, so the first one I want to draw your attention to is the warrior. And this picture is from the movie Warrior. And it's a great movie, by the way. So the warrior in us is energetic. It's decisive. It's courageous. It's enduring. That is, it can last. It's got endurance. It's just going to keep going even when you're tired, or even when it's tired, or when it just wants to give up. It can just keep going, or when other parts want to keep up. So it's persevering. It's also a part that's loyal, right? So this is just a great illustration of it. Hopefully you guys know this movie. If you haven't watched it, please do. I think it's called The Warrior. Tom Hardy there, and I forget the name of the other actor, but they're brothers. Anyway, great plot. Really exemplifies a warrior that's an immature warrior, and then a more mature warrior, his older brother. So there's a warrior in you, and then there's a magician in you. So I picked Gandalf here. I was tempted to pick Doctor Strange. So the idea of the magician in you is the magician has this deep insight, awareness. He's clever. He thinks his way around things. So the example of Doctor Strange being he wins not through brute force or even just superior magic, but through strategy and thinking his way through. He also has this sort of detached, he's able to enter into a detached observer role. So he's not triggered and overwhelmed by his emotions. He's also obviously thoughtful and reflective, and he has this clarity of thought. It's one of his hallmarks. He also has a great sense of humor and sees the humor in everything. The magician is able to also access a kind of jester, a court jester type of energy, where it doesn't take anything too seriously. So it's like more of this laid back, easygoing type of energy. And part of the reason why is because he has a bigger perspective on things. It's a great scene in Lord of the Rings, Return of the King, where Pippin, I think, one of the hobbits is freaking out because he thinks he's going to die. And these bad guys, these giant trolls or whatever, are bashing the wooden door down, and the good guys are all waiting behind the door, and it looks like they're going to lose. And Pippin asks Gandalf about, are you afraid of death? And the Gandalf gives him this perspective and this beautiful poetic description of what it's like in the beyond. And it's just a great illustration of the power of the magician to take this clarity of this higher perspective and therefore able to be calm even in the face of great pressure and to see the humor in everything as well. Okay, so that's the magician. You have a magician in you. All right, you also have a lover in you. Okay, lover was a hard one to pick actually because it triggers a lot of dudes who don't have abundant sexual lives. So I picked originally. There's some really great screenshots of this is Johnny Depp, obviously in Don Juan DeMarco. Great movie if you want to study seductive archetypes and just his tonality, body language, all that fun stuff. But even a bit more important is the plot of the actual movie, where he is a psychotherapy patient and most of the movie is basically living life through his mind. It's kind of delusional mind, but he actually opens up his psychiatrist, psychotherapist here, who is leading a kind of sexually stifled, lack of romantic passion life with his wife. And as a result of working with Johnny Depp's character here, Johnny Depp introduced this passion in him. So there's a great illustration of the lover energy, this movie. Another one I highly recommend all of you guys study, Don Juan DeMarco. And the lover in us, the archetype of the lover, is related and connected. So this deep concern about connectedness. And this is where we tap into our passion and aliveness. It's a passionate, alive archetype who's also enthusiastic and energized, is also more compassionate and empathic or empathetic, is also obviously a romantic and can be an idealist and a dreamer. And one of the really powerful things about the lover is that the lover keeps these other three archetypes humane, loving, related, connected, compassionate, empathetic. Without the lover, the other three archetypes could team up and actually they exist. Like I said, the assumption is they exist in all human beings, passed down as an evolved inheritance. So those archetypes would supposedly exist in whatever you think of stock evil character, Hitler or whatever. So you could see that a warrior, a magician, and a king could become the evil version of that. But add in there the lover. If you're able to release the lover into the consciousness, that tempers all of that. The lover is that one ingredient out of these four that is required for it not to go bad. So the other three are also required for the lover not to become too extreme, because he could end up like Don Juan DeMarco in the movie, become delusional, kind of detached from reality. So he needs the other energies to balance him out. Okay, so the lover, it's awesome. I know a lot of guys who have trouble with women obviously are missing that lover energy, and it's really important to be able to tap into that. And then finally, the king energy. I picked Russell Crowe from Gladiator. I'm sure you've all seen this one. I wanted to pick, what's that guy's name in Lord of the Rings, the king, Aragorn, but I thought two Lord of the Rings would be too much. So going with Russell Crowe here, who wasn't quite a king figure, he's more of a warrior king, but he was an amazing leader, and that's the hallmark of the king. His leadership and ability to incorporate other parties into a common goal. He's also the hallmark or the characteristic is bringing order to chaos, of rationality, ruled by rationality and reason, also of integrity. That's a huge component of the king. He has that in common with the warrior as well, but even more so. Obviously also of stability, of centeredness, and of calm and security, of certainty and of purpose. And maybe one of the more interesting aspects of his leadership ability or his leadership personality is that he guides and nurtures and honors and promotes others. So these four archetypes don't just exist in men, even though they're often written about in terms of masculine energies, but they are definitely exist in women as well. So the king, or maybe the sovereign, which is a more gender neutral term, of that guidance and nurturance, you can see that in female leadership. And obviously in male leadership, you'll see that as well. But you can see that the lover energy might come very naturally for those where it's socially sanctioned for females to be more in touch with their lover energy, for instance. But you'll notice, hopefully you'll notice that all four of these energies are incredibly powerful for someone who wants to increase his masculine energy. And just especially for those who want to get into phase 2 night, that level of the phase, second level of the night. And especially important to be able to access that warrior energy. And out of all of those four archetypes, the one that is often accessed first is the warrior. And that's part of why phase 2 of the night usually comes online first, usually go from phase 1 to 2. Because without that warrior energy, it's very difficult to persist through hard times and over the dark tunnels of transformation. So I gave another example yesterday of the chrysalis and the caterpillar that crawls into the cocoon, or the cocoon forms, caterpillar becomes a butterfly. And imagine that, again, you're the caterpillar and you're in this cocoon that basically resembles a tomb, and you could think you're going to die. And that's why if you're able to access the warrior, bring the warrior online, then you get that take-off velocity we were talking about. The warrior brings the take-off velocity. And once you're able to take off, then it's relatively less energy, a lot less energy, especially when you hit cruising altitude, to access the other parts of you, the other archetypes. So that first one we're going to hit is the warrior, and we're going to do a very pleasant guided meditative exercise together. Some of you might have done this, again, if you've done Rock Solid Relationships with me, or if you've taken that mini course core. If you have, give it another shot and go and visit with these archetypes. How often do you visit with your archetype? You might have done, and so something I discovered when guys take my courses and they don't realize that you're supposed to do them over and over and over, because the more you do them, the stronger you get, that they visit with these four parts and then they don't visit them again, or they're not even aware of them anymore. So if you're not allowing your warrior to do his job, or the king, or the warrior, the magician, or especially the lover, if you have an underused lover and you access him through maybe my meditation earlier, and you haven't come back to, hey, lover, I need you now, or maybe that's the wrong term, I don't need you now, but I think you would really enjoy coming out now on this date, or interacting with this woman that we all really like, speaking for your parts. If you haven't done that, if it's just sort of like something you did one time, then it's only going to have that limited appeal or limited result. So for those who've never done this before, this is a very transformative exercise. You're going to need to actually say stuff. It's really important that you are in a place that's where you won't feel judged. So go and find a quiet place. If you have to go into your bathroom and maybe turn the fan on or whatever it is, so you're not too self-conscious, if you're going to have to whisper to yourself, that's okay. Do the best you can. But ideally, you would really speak when I'm prompting you to do so. Also, if you can stand up, so I highly recommend you get some headphones and you can so you can carry your device and just close your eyes while standing and moving around a little bit. You're not going to be kicking anything or punching anything, so don't worry about that. So you just need a little space to sort of walk on the spot, or maybe walk around in a bit, like in a little circle or something. And the more you play full out, the more you go for it, the stronger the effect will be. Now, some of you may be very out of touch with these archetypes in you, so you really got to play full out, right? So this isn't one of those things where you sort of dabble in it, because if you just sort of passively listen to it, it's first of all going to sound really weird. Secondly, you're not going to get anything out of it, or maybe you might enjoy like a pleasant close your eyes nap or something. But to really get the effect, you got to play full out. You got to go all in, right? So when I'm prompting you to say stuff, you got to really say stuff and make those movements and all of that. Okay, so the actual movements will help you access those archetypes and bring them out from your unconscious. As you get to know those movements or those things that they say, or the tone of voice that they're saying it in, and you through your body, you'll be able to access them by redoing those physical cues, the verbal cues, and so on. Right? Maybe they have a particular way that they move their eyes, or move your shoulders. Or maybe the warrior stands up straight and strong, and maybe he makes a movement. And when you do that, the next time you do that, that part comes out more. So pay attention to all of the things that come naturally to you. Now, to speak to those who are still deep in phase 1 novice, just try your best. If it doesn't quite take, it's okay. You can do it again. Just look at the timestamps 128 or something like that. You can just do it again. You're going to keep the replay up until the end of the challenge. So you can try it again, maybe in a couple of days. But if you play full out, just go all in, it is working. Even if you don't see it at first, it is speaking directly to your unconscious. And those archetypes in you are beginning to rouse. If you are close to these archetypes coming out, or if they've already come out before, they're going to respond in a pretty strong way. So just allow it to happen. Don't second guess, don't doubt, don't let the critical parts just keep jumping in. Just relax into the process and just allow whatever comes out to come out. Okay, so enough preamble. Let's get into it. So again, if you're operating heavy machinery, you definitely have to pull over. Ideally, you'll get some headphones and you'll find a quiet spot and a place where you can stand up and walk around just a little bit. And we're going to get moving on this. Okay, so who's up, man? Who is up for this? Let's see that. Well, actually, there's a 10 to 15 second delay on the comments, so I don't want to kill our momentum here. But if you're up for it, hit that engagement, the thumbs up or the hearts. Just go all out for this. Even if you're watching this on replay, I appreciate that energy. This is for you to pump yourself up, to go for it, so that you're not second guessing and holding back. Because if you hold back, you're not going to get the result. Okay, so here we go. Wish me luck as I do this tech. Okay, here we go. And ideally, you'll do it with your eyes closed. Okay. Whatever negative emotions are dominating your life right now, there is a way to be completely free of them. By learning to manage your emotional state, you can enjoy a wider range of positive emotion in your life. Whenever you have a severe challenge of some sort and have difficulty resolving it, remember, you're not going to resolve it with the same resources that you're trying to solve it with because what you're doing isn't working. There's something you're struggling with, like you don't know what to do, or you're frustrated, or you're hurt, or you're sad. And one way to do this is to tap into other parts of you. So the first archetype or part of you that we're going to call on is within you. Now, the warrior is a part of you that, if you think of the part of you that's probably the most intense, the most strong in its attack on anything, the warrior is about action and strength. A warrior is looking to do something, and they're doing something using their power. So there's a warrior part of you. And there's a part of you that many of you would think of as a magician. Think of a magician as somebody who can detach from anything and just observe it. And a magician finds the magic in anything. A magician can snap his fingers and change something. They see things that other people get upset about, and they see them as absurd because they have a totally different perspective. A magician just sees it all as magic. It's all hocus pocus. It's all spells. It's all trances. It's all hypnosis. The magician has a little bit of a whimsical view of things. The magician is more involved in the invisible. He's more involved in intuition, and the magician knows it's easy. They know it can be done in an instant, whereas the warrior does it through strength and power and action. The magician might do it with a snap of a finger. The magician might do it by insight or by humor or a totally different view. And the third one for you is the lover inside you. The lover, hopefully, though you don't need much reminder, but the lover is really your deepest emotions of connection and love. This is where you vibrate with life. This is where all the deepest connections within you are. This is your connection to everything, to God, to yourself, to other people. The deepest love you have. A love that does not have conditions. A love that is pure, the purest part of you, the most loving, pure part of you. And then finally, the fourth part is the sovereign. And the sovereign in mythological terms is the person who really knows your vision and purpose. The sovereign is the one who governs, has the ability to govern our lives. They know why you're here. They know what you're going to do. Think of them as like being a great ruler who has just an enormous amount of wisdom and knowledge. The sovereign has been here before and can command and doesn't overreact. They know a wise sovereign. Now, all four of these parts are inside of everybody, every single person. However, the knowing in every part of us, but they're not always in balance. Sometimes who's running the whole show is the warrior, and so everything is reacted to with that kind of response. Sometimes who's always in charge is the lover, and if anyone is always in charge, it gets exhausted. This process is rooted in physiology as you identify parts of your body that are associated with each archetype. The strategy harnesses the force of emotion and turns it into a strength that will bring about unity in you. What's the thing you're struggling with that you would like to resolve? And if you could resolve it, it creates pain for you, or anger for you, or frustration for you, or it's overwhelming for you, and you want to resolve it. What I now want you to do is to convert that into a question. Convert that question into why is it important to you? Why is it important to you? What's the real question behind that question? There's a real question relating to you behind that question. So what do you got to solve in you now? What is it that you need to resolve? That's what we're going to focus on. What is it that you need to resolve in you? And why is it important to you? Now stand up. Is there one part of you, inside of you, that is a warrior that can make anything happen? A warrior inside of you that takes action. A warrior that takes no excuses. A warrior that produces all results. A warrior that will not come back without the result. Is there a part of you like that? Where is that warrior inside of you? Point to it right now. But don't think, just point. Touch that part of you right away. Feel that warrior right now. In talking about the warrior, we are talking about recovering the energy, the strength, the determination, and the commitment to truth that were stifled in your childhood. You will now reclaim your warrior, and with it the ability to change your life. Feel the warrior within. As you touch your warrior in your physical body, as you touch your warrior, make the sound of your warrior. Make the warrior sound out loud now. Make the sound of the warrior. Make it right now. Make it right now. Don't think, just make it. Go ahead. The sound of your warrior. Let him speak. Make the sound that your warrior would make. Right now, right now. Don't wait. Go, go. Make the sound that your warrior would make. Let your warrior speak. Say it again. Say it the way the warrior would say it. Say it the way your warrior would say it. Say it the way your warrior would say it. Say it the way your warrior would say it. Say it the way your warrior would say it. Enjoy saying it the way your warrior would say it. Again. Say it again, even more. Enjoy it. Say it again. Now feel your warrior within. Feel your warrior. Feel your warrior. Feel your warrior. That's it. Now make the sound your warrior makes. That's it. Make more of your warrior sound. Make it again. Make some more of your warrior sound. Make some more of your warrior sound. Make the sound your warrior makes when the warrior is unleashed. Make the sound the warrior makes unleashed. That's it. Make the sound the warrior sound. Make the sound when it's totally unleashed. That's it. Even more. Let your warrior get stronger. Let your warrior get stronger. That's it. Even stronger. That's it. Even stronger. That's it. That's it. Enjoy it. That's it. Feel your warrior. That's it. Feel your warrior. Feel your warrior. Feel your warrior. Make the warrior sound. That's it. That's it. That's it. That's it. That's it. Feel your warrior. Feel your warrior. That's it. That's it. Feel your warrior. That's right. Feel your warrior. That's right. Feel your warrior completely. That's right. Feel your warrior completely. That's it. That's it. That's it. Feel your warrior. 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 Feel your warrior totally. Every part of your warrior. Feel your warrior. Every bit of your warrior. Every bit of your warrior. Feel how alive your warrior is now. That's it. That's it. That's it. Feel how alive your warrior is now. Feel your warrior. Feel your warrior take over your entire body for a moment. Feel your warrior take over your entire body for a moment. The warrior. Take it back and take control. Does your warrior have a nickname? What is your warrior's nickname? What is your warrior's nickname? Feel your warrior. What does your warrior call himself or herself? Ask your warrior. Your warrior will tell you. Ask your warrior. What do you call yourself? Who are you? Say what your warrior says. What does your warrior say? That's right. Say it again. That's right. Say it again. That's right. Say it again. That's right. Feel your warrior. Move as your warrior. Let your warrior take over your entire body. Keep your hand touching that part in your body and march on the spot. Now, as you feel your warrior, feel your warrior right now. Make the warrior sound again. Make whatever sound your warrior makes. Go ahead. Say it the way your warrior says it. Say it the way your warrior says it. Feel how your warrior says it. Enjoy how your warrior says it. That's it. Say it again. What could your warrior get done? What could your warrior get done? What could your warrior get you to accomplish? What could your warrior get you to accomplish? Is there any question in your mind, yes or no? Thank your warrior for that. Warriors are people of action, people of courage. All those things are active uses of the warrior in a courageous way. It causes the warrior to face fear, to triumph. The purpose of the warrior is to find within you a greater level of inner strength, not to fight with others. This warrior clearly knows that. This is a mature warrior, not a dumb kid. A mature warrior who understands that. A true warrior breaks through fear. Now ask your warrior a question. What do you need to stop indulging in? And then say, the warrior says, and tell me what your warrior says. Just the first thing that pops in your head. What do you need to stop indulging in? The warrior says. What do you need to stop indulging in? The warrior says. Ask the warrior. What do you need to do? The warrior says. Yes, the warrior says. Yes, the warrior says. The warrior says. The warrior says. What does the warrior say? Ask the warrior. The warrior says. Ask the warrior. How will the warrior do this? The warrior says. How will the warrior do this? The warrior says. The warrior says. That's right. That's right. Ask your warrior what your warrior values the most now. Because your warrior is matured, obviously. What does your warrior value most now? The warrior says, I value. The warrior says, I value. What? What does your warrior value the most now? The warrior says, I value. That's right. The warrior says, I value. That's right. The warrior says, I value. That's right. Now, what I want you to do is, there is a magician in you. There's a magician that is like a wise Gandalf or a wise Galadriel. This wise wizard could just snap his or her fingers and see the humor in all this. The warrior will sometimes think they gotta fight, but the magician will just go with the flow. The magician knows how to snap his fingers and create a change instead of having to fight forever to make it happen. The magician has magic available, and the magician is kind of playful. The magician sees the silliness. The magician can just with a few words turn a frog into a prince or a prince into a frog. The magician knows that all the stuff that you've been struggling with has just been a dance, so we can step out of it any time and take on a new dance. The magician knows the truth. The magician's always got a smile. The magician's always smiling every minute. The magician has got a twinkle in the eye. Now point to where your magician is in your physical body. Touch your magician. Where is the magician in your body? There you go. That's it. That's it. That's it. Touch your magician. There is the magician. There is the magician. By experiencing your warrior to the fullest, you broke out of self-pity and became aware of your real emotional resources. By experiencing your magician to the fullest, you will now break out of helplessness and discover ways that you can instantly change your situation by changing the meanings things have for you. The magician feels differently about all these. Not differently like it doesn't agree, just that there's another point of view as well. Something to add. So, ask the magician, what do you need to stop indulging in? Maybe it's the same thing. Let's find out. What does the magician say? Now stay with the magician. That's it. The magician says, what? That's right. Say it again. The magician says. Say it again. The magician says. Say it again. The magician says. That's right. Hear the magician say that. Ask the magician, what does the magician say? The magician says. That's right. Say it again. The magician says. That's right. Say it again. The magician says. That's right. Ask the magician, if you had a true purpose for your life, what would it be? What is it that would make you feel more happy, more fulfilled, and more in tune with your life in the world? Is it love? Is it happiness? The magician says. That's right. Say it again. The magician says. That's right. Say it again. The magician says. That's right. Hear the magician say that. Now ask the magician, what emotion have you held back in your life? The magician says. That's right. Say it again. The magician says. That's right. Say it again. The magician says. That's right. Say it again. The magician says. That's right. Ask the magician what spell you need to let go of that makes you believe limiting things. What is the spell we must dispel? Where did that disempowering trance come from that you're going to destroy now? Ask the magician. The magician says, the spell we have been under for so many years, that you've been under it, but the magician is not under it. What is the spell? The magician says, there you go. There it is. There it is. There it is. There it is. Let the magician say it. The magician says, the spell we have been under is... Keep on going. The spell you have been under is what? Keep on going. The magician says, the spell we have been under is... That's right. That's right. Now ask the magician if he or she will take that spell away. The magician says, ask your magician, how will the magician do it? The magician says, yes. And ask your magician, how about we dispel that old spell? The magician says, ask the magician, what new spell will we now create? It's a spell that would dehypnotize you from thinking you weren't worthy of love. Ask the magician what is always within you. The magician says. The magician says. The magician says. Is there any doubt with that? So what are you? I am what? That's right. That's right. Now I got another question. Is there a lover inside you? This archetype will move you from recognizing what is possible to acting on your deepest emotional desires. Your guarded and restrictive armor peels off. When you take on the lover archetype, whatever you've been afraid to express and everything that you've been afraid to feel or to be will come out. Make the sound your lover makes. That's it. Keep making the sound your lover makes. Make it again. That's it. Make more of the sound your lover makes. Make some more of the sound your lover makes. Make the sound your lover makes when unleashed. Make the sound your lover makes when unleashed. That's it. Make the sound your lover makes when totally unleashed. Feel how alive your lover is now. That's it. That's it. That's it. Feel how alive your lover is now. Ask the lover, what do we need to do from here on out? The lover says. The lover says. The lover says. The lover says. That's it. That's right. The lover says. That's it. The lover says. The lover says. What does the lover say? The lover says. The lover says. The lover says. What does the lover say? The lover says. The lover says. Ask your lover if you mind if you visit a lot more often. Ask the lover, how do you deal with rejection? The lover says. Ask your lover what spell is now gone from you. The lover says. And with that spell gone, what is possible? The lover says. That's right. And what can you enjoy with this spell gone? The lover says. That's right. Now, you will take on the fourth archetype, the sovereign, who will help you declare what you now believe to be the deepest level of truth in your life. Make the sounds of your sovereign, the ruler, the wise ruler who knows what you're made for, who knows the road ahead. Make the sounds of your sovereign. Make it again. Make it again. Make the sound of your sovereign, the ruler. Make it again. Your sovereign knows what you're made for. Your sovereign knows the road ahead. Your sovereign knows your purpose. Your sovereign has your vision. Make the sound of your sovereign. Make the sound of your sovereign again. Make it again. Make it again and enjoy it. Where is your sovereign in your physical body? Touch your sovereign. Touch your sovereign in your body. And make the sound of your sovereign again. Make the sound of your sovereign. Touch your sovereign. Touch your sovereign. Touch your sovereign. Good. 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 What does your sovereign now say to you? The sovereign says. Yes, and the sovereign says. Yes, that's right. Ask your sovereign, what do we need to do from here on out? The sovereign says. What do we need to do from here on out? The sovereign says. The sovereign says. The sovereign says. The sovereign says. That's it. That's right. Ask the sovereign, how do you deal with rejection? The sovereign says. The sovereign says. That's right. That's right. Ask your sovereign, what spell is now gone from you? The sovereign says. And with that spell gone, what is possible? The sovereign says. That's right. That's right. Good. And what does your sovereign now say to you? The sovereign says. Yes. And the sovereign says. Yes. Going through the four archetypes, you are guided through four totally different emotional realities. Each archetype carries its own freedom and strength and teaches you a different lesson. By exploring your full emotional range, you freed yourself of the old restrictive spells, and you are now ready to embark on a new life where you are free to express the full range of your being. Give yourself a round of applause. Yes. Now, open your eyes slowly and jot down your thoughts. Everything you can remember that your warrior, magician, lover, and sovereign felt, thought, and said. Write it down while it's fresh. And congratulations. Okay, all right. So now we're back. And how was that for you? Share in the comments. And right now, actually, if you could write down everything you can remember from what your 4 archetypes shared with you, especially what they shared about what you need to stop doing, or is there anything that you need to dispel? All right, let me see. I'll put some background music just as we share here. Okay. And here we go. So go ahead and type that into the comments. Okay, great. So go ahead and type that into the comments. What did you learn? Anything that you discovered that your parts told you about, that your archetypes shared with you about what you should stop doing, or anything that you should start doing? Or if there are any values that they valued that you should also live your life in accordance with. Anything at all that they shared with you, even if you had nicknames for your parts or where they were located in, on, or around your body, write those down in your notes so that when you, like tomorrow, when you go to visit with them, you'll know how to access them better. So having their nickname, where they are in, on, and around your body, where that energy was located, just your first instinct where that was, and then anything that you can remember that they shared with you, anything like that. So go ahead and type into the comments anything that you can remember that you'd like to share. So I do realize there's like 10 to 15 second lag, plus you're probably writing stuff down. So I'm going to keep plowing forward, but I'm waiting because I want to see how that went for you. And that was a pretty lengthy meditative exercise. So I'm sure you came up with a lot. Zach wrote, wow, need to visit them individually more. Awesome. Awesome. So some of you, I've done this many times in person, and you may not realize how much you need to embody these parts to really have them come in their fullness. So for instance, the warrior for me, and again, you have access to this replay until the end of the challenge. The warrior for me, for my warrior, whose name is just Warrior, his sound is like this. Ah! All right, I might have fucked up the volume and leveling here, but did that. And just do that again and again and again. And the sound and the move. All right, so that's the warrior. Warrior likes to come out, especially during workouts. He got a lot of work today, so he's pretty happy. He doesn't need to come out too much. My lover, let me see if I can. The lover speaks slowly and smoothly. Doesn't blink much. It's pretty intense eye contact. Looks like this. He's kind of cheeky. Got a lot of magician energy there as well. Okay, so that was the lover. So I know where they are in the body. The lover's very much in the eyes, much more relaxed. Just came out just a little bit because I got this non-lover music going in my ears. But just like that, if you get to know them well, boom, you can enter them. And they're always there in the background as you get to know them better to inform you. So it's not like they totally disappear. It's not like they even totally need to come out. They just be there, just there as energy. And it's not even either they're fully there or they're not. It could be a continuum. Like he's like 20% there, or maybe he's 80% there. In my sparring, for instance, my coach is telling me in my Muay Thai sparring that I need to have less empathy because I apologize when I hit people in sparring, but I'm not supposed to. So I'm gonna access the warrior, give him more, have him come out more. But the lover in me is just so default that they're often just getting in each other's way sometimes. So anyway, so that's just fun. It's just fun stuff to make your life more full and powerful and joyful. And specifically in this context, we're looking at accessing your warrior energy to enter into phase 2, to phase 2 night. So on that, the phase 2 night, I just want to conclude our examination of the phase 2. phase 2 night has some downsides. This is what will lead to the next phase, the next level, which is phase 3. The phase 2 night downsides include that he's still driven, and after a while, it becomes a kind of neurotic drive. A large part of that drive comes from a need for significance. That's the standard way of that's the standard MO for a phase 2 night, needing that, the feeling that you're special, that you're significant. And that drives you at the beginning, which is great because it gets you lots of stuff, more money, more accolades in your career. Maybe you power through to become, to learn and internalize those skills for dating and attraction. But after a while, this drive based on this need for significance becomes neurotic and causes all kinds of problems. The phase 2 night is also becomes reliant on powering through. With that warrior energy, it can lead to really being tired. If you rely on the warrior a lot to get stuff done in your day-to-day life, he's probably pretty tired. He's overworked, but he doesn't know any other way around it because you haven't accessed yet phase 3. We're going to get to that tomorrow. The phase 2 night, and I'm talking about the mature night, not just the beginning of it. So again, it's a continuum. When you first enter that phase, there's this upward trajectory through it, and eventually you're going to hit a plateau and then a dip within each phase. Except phase one just kind of sucks all around. But phase 2, you have a really nice progress at the beginning, and then a plateau and dip, and then you're ready for the next phase, which is phase 3. So in that plateau and dip, you'll notice for phase 2 nights that it's hard for you to understand your vulnerability or your vulnerable emotions. There's a huge misunderstanding around what vulnerability is, especially in the context of dating and attraction. And that's true in phase 1 and in phase 2, even for phase 2, because phase 2 isn't about vulnerability. It's about powering through, about fighting it, about the warrior energy. The knight who's coming to the end of that cycle of his own phase finds himself acting out and getting triggered too often, because this is a result of burnout. So he's overworked, overtired, too tired, and he has this desire to just rest or finish. If you've excelled at anything in your life and it's been a while, even if you were awesome at your job and you loved it at the beginning, 10 years later, still doing the same thing, a lot of people become burnt out. They want to just rest or finish. They just want to retire in a way. They just want to go laze on a beach and just like discover the next thing for them. And maybe that next thing is already starting to appeal to them, but it's totally different. So they don't know how to bridge that gap. And that's a sign of the night coming to the end of the night phase for that person. Acting out, getting triggered too often, burning out, wanting to just rest or finish. And then tomorrow, we're going to be getting into the next phase for that night, coming to the end of that phase. What is phase 3 like? Phase 3, the movement from phase 2 to 3 is what I work on a lot in that area with my private clients. It's one of my favorite areas because that turn is just so deep and enjoyable. And anyway, I'm going to get into that tomorrow. That's what's coming: more love, passion, connection, enjoyment, fulfillment, happiness in life. And that comes from actually moving into phase 3, not from sticking it out in phase 2. Okay, so we've been on over time here. Tang Chun Xie wrote, "Thank you, that was powerful. I actually teared up during the warrior section. Awesome. My 4 archetypes approached more or less the same problems and had largely the same answers as well." Yes, that is excellent. They're in alignment. I'd always known the problem, which was fear, and was working on stepping out of it gradually. So I need to keep doing what I'm doing. Awesome. Tang Chun Xie, you need to come tomorrow. We will be directly addressing how to transform your fear, because that is the requirement for the big turning point for phase 3. So come back tomorrow. You're going to love it. Milos wrote, "The warrior taught me to keep moving forward and don't give up." Oh, awesome. Magician taught me to experiment, learn, and apply what I learned. Lovely. The king taught me to smile and move on when I get rejected. The lover taught me to be kind, genuine, and share love, even when people are negative or angry, because they especially need more love. Oh, that's beautiful, Milos. Thank you so much for sharing. I love it. Absolutely. Thank you so much for sharing. I realize you guys are typing these long things, so it took a while for the comments to come through. Awesome. And I know you guys are taking notes, writing all of this down for yourself, and I totally honor that. I love that. You're going to have a chance to do that in the challenge action sheet. So right now, actually just right after this live, you go to the concierge page. I got the link in the description here. Go to the concierge page. You'll see that you can download now, day 2's challenge. So there will be a fillable PDF there. It will prompt you to write down anything you can remember from visiting with those 4 archetypes in you. And then it'll also prompt you for 2 more questions about what they shared about what you need to stop doing, and then anything that you need to start doing or to value more, or something on the positive end of that. So that's the 3rd question. And then the actual challenge, I'm going to share that right at the end. I just realized I'm supposed to announce the winners. So let me do the winners here, and let's get some cool upbeat music. How about this? This sounds good. All right. So I'm going to announce the winners. Let's get a drum roll here. The winners for day 2. So based on the day 1 live challenge entry, the top 2 winners chosen by the team are Lucas J. Miles. Lucas Miles, where are you? And right to support ordating.com. Congratulations, Lucas J. Miles. And the second winner is Zach Johnson. Zach Johnson, congratulations as well. Oh, I see you live here. Congrats, man. And contact support, email support at oradating.com to claim your prize, which is free access to the course Core, which is an 8+ hour step-by-step course all about accessing these 4 archetypes as well as your masculine energies. And you're going to absolutely love it. There's also an amazing meditative exercise in there that is really physical and even more awesome for directly accessing the warrior, which, by the way, that warrior energy is the big requirement, like that, the big necessary turning point, that big step to getting that takeoff velocity. Once a warrior comes online, the other parts start to come online more quickly and more naturally and effortlessly. So that warrior energy core, that course core, that's what it's all about. Congratulations to Lucas J. Miles and Zach Johnson for winning Core. Right to support at oradating.com, and they will hook you up with your prize. Okay, and then I'm going to tell you about the challenge live video. I hope the music's not too loud. I might be drowning my voice out. The challenge is to go live and share one insight, one revelation, one important insight that you discovered from the 4 archetypes, anything that your king, your warrior, your lover, your magician shared with you. Just choose one and go live and share that, okay? That is the challenge for today. All right, so just go live and share one insight, one revelation that your 4 archetypes shared with you. All right, so I'm so glad that you stayed with it and that you went all out. I'm so proud of you guys for doing this. For those watching on replay, I look forward to seeing your live video entries as well. And thanks so much for watching up to this point. And any kind of engagement, just that we'll appreciate it. Any thumbs ups, hearts, even angry faces, that helps actually the algorithm. Any comments here will help. We appreciate it all. And by the way, we have over 100 people waiting on the waiting list to get into the group, but they didn't follow the instructions. So they're in the waiting list and they will not be admitted, actually. So congratulations to all of you who are in this right now, because you followed the instructions and are in this. Now follow the next instruction, which is go live and share one revelation that you discovered from any of your 4 archetypes. And we'll see you tomorrow. Same time tomorrow, we'll be getting into phase 3 Sage, how to unlock more love, passion, connection in your life and effortlessly. And it's that's my favorite transition from phase 2 to 3. So I'm really looking forward to walking you through that. If you have been on any of our previous challenges, this day 3 material will be completely new, different. So I'm redoing the whole thing. It's not like the other one. So if you've done any of the other challenges, just come to day 3 tomorrow. Anyway, because it's all new. See ya there. It is coming up to almost midnight for us over here. So we are going to get to close off here. Thanks so much again for being on. I'll see you tomorrow, same time. David Tian signing out. Thanks so much again, Zach. And Zach and Lucas, congratulations. Thanks so much, Milos and Tanjun Chia and Neil for being on, and Darren and Jalen. Great to see you guys. And Andrew, thank you guys for being on with us. And until I see you tomorrow, same time, same place, David Tian signing out. Level up!